Hey guys, it's Nihongo Johnny and welcome to my channel if you are new. My name's Johnny and I talk about all things paranormal and Japan. And today we're going to do something we haven't done in a while, which is short story reading. During the week I searched the internet for some creepy Japanese stories about hauntings and the paranormal, so I hope you guys really enjoy these. These were some of my favorite stories that I translated into English for you guys. I know I've been talking a lot about really creepy and horrifying stuff on my channel lately, so I decided to pick more spooky stories. So you don't have to worry about these stories cursing you at all or keeping you up at night. So feel free to listen to these before bed or grab a blanket and some snacks and settle down. I really hope that you guys will enjoy these stories as much as I do. Our first story is called 3 Days After Playing with a Japanese Ouija Board. This story is from when I was in middle school. Back in those days, despite being banned throughout school, Kokkuri-san was a very popular game to play. You see, Kokkuri-san is a Japanese-style Ouija board. You have a piece of paper with Japanese characters on it, and you use a 10 yen coin as a planchette. I am by no means a medium, nor do I have any psychic gifts. At first, I began watching my friends play with the board. However, before long, my friends invited me to play. I couldn't say no and I found myself joining them. Upon playing the game with my friends, I was very shocked to feel the coin move on its own. One day, while I was playing Kokkuri-san again, I felt a presence behind me and I could not get the coin to slide to goodbye. Lunchtime was over, so I went home without properly closing the board. Later that night, at 2 a.m. on the dot, I was sleeping in my bed and woke up out of nowhere. I found myself paralyzed, unable to move. If I remember correctly, it was almost a full minute before I was able to move again. The next day, everyone at school was playing Kokkuri-san yet again. However, I just went through my day and returned home without going near the board. That very night, I woke up once again, this time at 4 o'clock on the dot. The sleep paralysis took over my body yet again. I was facing the ceiling and my body grew stiff. Without any movement from my muscles or even a shift in my body weight, my body slowly turned to its side and then rolled again. It started moving almost like an axle, turning round and round. Just as I began to worry that I was going to slam into the wall on the right side, my body loosened up and everything went back to normal. On day 3, I woke up at 4 o'clock once more. The sleep paralysis began to set in, and the radio above my head turned on full blast. For some reason, I think I was the only one who could hear it. This continued to happen to me for the next 3 nights. I truly wished from the bottom of my heart that it would stop disrupting my sleep. The moment this crossed my mind, the radio turned off and I regained control of my body. From that moment on, I never experienced sleep paralysis again. As I grew up, I had completely forgotten about Kokkuri-san. But one day, I remembered the dangers of the game and all the things I have experienced. It was until that moment that I thought sleep paralysis was merely a coincidence. The more I remembered, the more I began to wonder if this was all caused by the game. Back when we played Kokkuri-san, although we only had one friend who was particularly sensitive to the paranormal, everyone at school always complained of headaches when they played with the board. I did have one more thing that happened to me. One night, I saw a girl standing in the hallway. "Are you okay?" I asked without hesitation. I wondered why I would ask such a thing, but it replied with, "I'm fine." When I think about it now, I wonder if that was the spirit I contacted on the board. I thought it was really creepy that this spirit followed her home. And I heard it's really bad if you don't close out the Ouija board properly, if you don't slide it to goodbye. So I wonder if that's what caused the sleep paralysis. Or maybe it was her anxiety about the board that caused it. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think happened. This next story is called My Psychic Friends. I have 2 friends with fairly strong psychic abilities. Let's call them Person A and Person B. These 2 people didn't know each other, but around 2 years ago, we all went to a small party together. There were about 4 people there, and it was my first time meeting Person A and Person B. You see, in Japan, most parties have something called nijikai. This is something like an after party, and sometimes they even have a sanjikai, and this is like an after party after that. The party wasn't all that exciting, however I proceeded to go to the after party anyways. By the time everyone decided to go to the third party, I politely declined, so we decided to go for tea instead. The nijikai came to a close, and we were all on our way to the coffee shop. But that's when one person in the group said that they wanted to get some cake. "There has to be a dessert bar around here somewhere," one of our friends said. My psychic friend, Person A, told us of a good place with delicious sweets. "I just want you guys to know that the place I'm talking about is really good, but you're gonna have to be a little patient." She said this in an eerie manner. Everyone was a little bit confused and the air around us grew heavy. The shop was located a little far away from the shopping district. It was in some sort of two-story tavern. The building itself had quite an old feel to it, almost like a European-style building made from stone. On the first floor, there was a showcase lined with different kinds of cake and tea. It was apparent that the food could be ordered for takeout here. On the second floor, there was a nice place to sit down and eat. We placed our order and headed upstairs to sit down. There was no one but us up there, and it seemed completely deserted. "You picked a really nice place, didn't you?" I said casually to Person A on our way up the stairs. She looked as if she had something to say, but she couldn't for some strange reason. And I don't know why, but I remember this so clearly. Person A stared at the other 4 people as they were eating their desserts. She had such a strange expression on her face, and she was completely quiet the whole time. I didn't think someone could be this quiet, so I found it quite strange. A little while later, everyone was talking, and Person B said to Person A, "I can tell you have the ability to see what others cannot." The expression on Person A's face changed completely, and the rest of us sensed something was not quite right. "Let's get out of here," Person A demanded after putting their money on the table and rushing down the stairs. Once we got outside, I asked her what the hell happened. She said she felt a horrible presence on the second floor, and it felt like it didn't want us there. "I knew it," said Person B. "I had the exact same feeling." They both discussed the presence, and they said it was the spirit of a man. He wasn't a very good spirit, and he followed the group around the store the whole time. The 3 of us were trembling in fear at what Person A and Person B were discussing. I looked up at the window to see a dark figure of a man staring down at us. "Don't look up at him," they told me. "Without a doubt, he will follow us home." Until that point, I had never seen a spirit before. But later that night, I saw the dark figure following us home. Even though this was a scary story, I really liked the way the cafe sounded. I've been to a couple places like that when I lived in Japan, and they were pretty nice. What did you guys think of the story? Did you find it scary? Did you like the way the cafe sounded? Once again, let me know in the comments below. And let's get on to our next story. Story number 3, My Haunted Apartment. When I was 23, I moved into a new apartment with my boyfriend. It had 3 rooms and got quite a bit of sunlight during the day. The neighbors would often greet us, and it felt like a really nice place. I thought it was a fun start to our first time living together. I worked the grave shift at a part-time job, so I always stayed out late at night and returned home in the morning. As for my boyfriend, he leaves for work shortly after I get home. One day, as always, I got home and said goodbye to him as he left for his job. I sat down in the living room where I ate my breakfast and watched some TV. Once I finished eating, I turned off the TV and decided to go to bed. I rolled out the futon and got inside. However, it was extremely cold, even though it was in the middle of July. It was really strange. Shortly after, I heard a child's voice from outside the window. It seemed very clear, yet at the same time far away. I must have been really tired, I thought to myself. I closed my eyes and began to fall asleep, but suddenly the TV turned on by itself. What's going on, I thought. There was no one but me in the house, and the remote was on the bookshelf as usual. I was beginning to get worried. I went to get up to turn off the TV, but I couldn't move my body. I don't know what's happening. Am I paralyzed? It hurts really bad. I wonder if I'm gonna die, I thought. Just as those thoughts crossed my mind, I heard a loud bang on the door. My boyfriend was home. The pain stopped and suddenly I could move my body again. I couldn't believe how much time had passed. I asked my boyfriend how things went last night and how his job went. "I had something really strange happen last night," he said. "I had this weird episode of sleep paralysis and I couldn't sleep at all." My heart began to race and I started to worry. I usually don't believe in the paranormal or stories of ghosts, but I was extremely surprised by what he had said. I believe this was my first paranormal experience, and it was very scary. The following week, I asked my neighbors about the apartment. They said that there was once a man who lived there, and he would watch TV all day long. He was often angry and got abusive towards the family, and one day he completely lost it and strangled them to death. It appears that this man is repeating his domestically violent behaviors over and over again, even till this day. When we did some more research online, we found out that the day we suffered from sleep paralysis, that was the exact day the man murdered his family. I'm not someone who gets scared easily, but I left that apartment and never went back. I hope that one day this man can find peace and reach nirvana. This was yet another story of sleep paralysis, which makes me wonder if it's connected to ghosts, or if it's just connected to overworking and anxiety. What do you guys think? Would you guys leave that apartment, or would you stay there and try to figure out what was going on and maybe see if you could help? Let me know in the comments below, and we'll move on to our next story. This is called The Empty Room on the 13th Floor. My company ordered me to go on a month-long business trip into the city. The company had an apartment prepared for me to stay while I was there. However, it was about a 2-hour drive from work. I didn't know anything or anyone in that area, and the commute was really tough. I ended up looking for something a little closer to my job. However, this really wasn't a tourist area, so there weren't any hotels or inns to stay at. I really wondered if I could endure an entire month of this long taxing commute. But then one of my new coworkers said that he knew an apartment close to the job. We went to the real estate agent right away. The apartment they showed me was quite a different building than the other high-rises in the area. The real estate agent took us to an empty room on the top floor, and once he opened the door, the strong cold breeze came rushing out, and it smelled strongly of mold. At this point, I kind of felt like someone was standing behind me, but when I turned around, no one was there. I crossed my arms and looked around the room. I had a slight feeling that there was someone or something in there. "Is this really the only vacancy you have?" I asked. And unfortunately, it was. There wasn't much I could do about it, so I decided to take the room. I took the key from the agent and he told me it was the only key, and he told me not to lose it. The next morning I got in the elevator and I pressed the button to go down to the first floor. The whole way down I could not take my mind off of what a pain this new job was, and before I knew it, I was on the bottom floor. Then, as I was about to step out, I noticed there was a woman in the elevator with me. "Oh, I'm sorry, when did you get in here? Which floor were you planning to get off at?" I asked. I could have sworn there was no one in the elevator when I got on. Since I was up all night moving into the new apartment, I must have just been half asleep. Maybe she had gotten on when I wasn't really paying attention. But for some reason, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I went to work and came back later that night, and I was on the ground floor waiting for the elevator to go upstairs. I remembered what had happened this morning, so when the elevators opened, I looked around to make sure no one was there. Now I was 100% sure I was the only person in the elevator. Then, I pressed the button to the 13th floor. When I got to my floor, I was about to step out of the elevator when I noticed the woman in there again. What the hell? Without thinking, I turned around and said, "Good evening." Then I proceeded to get out of the elevator. My head was filled with confusion and fear. I knew I double-checked before I got inside, so how did she get in there? The next morning I was too scared to ride the elevator again, but I thought of what a pain it would be to go down 13 flights of stairs, so I got inside. The lady from yesterday wasn't in there this time. It was probably just my mind playing tricks on me yesterday. I came home later that night from a long evening of overtime work. I took the elevator upstairs, went to my apartment, and turned on the light. I felt the strong presence of someone behind me. I knew I was the only person there, yet I heard the breathing of someone behind my neck. I was overtaken by fear and began to sweat nervously. The voice inside my head began to count. 1, 2, 3, and I turned around as fast as I could. There she was, the woman from the elevator. I screamed and ran out of the apartment. I ran to the nearest police box and I had a cop escort me home. When we got to my place, the door that I had left wide open was shut and locked. However, the key was in my pocket. This was an old-style building, so it couldn't be locked without a key. And I knew I was not the one who locked it. When we went inside, we looked everywhere, but no one was there. "You seem very tired," the police officer said. "I think this might have all just been in your head." I didn't want to be in the apartment alone the rest of the night, but it was too late to travel 2 hours back to my other place. There was nothing I could do but stay the night. As I was getting ready for bed, I heard the sound of a woman crying. "That's enough," I yelled. I knew something had to be in the apartment with me. So I sat down near my futon and I began praying as hard as I could. I prayed and waited until daylight came. That was the scariest night of my life. The next morning I went straight to the real estate agency. I told them everything that had happened in one breath, and the agent was very apologetic. To tell you the truth, he said, there was a terrible accident that happened there, and ever since anyone who rented the room complained about similar things. I explained that it wasn't just the room that was haunted. The elevator had something in it as well. So the stories are true then. The woman really does appear in the elevator, the agent muttered to himself. To this day, I don't know if the woman killed herself in my room or not, but she did live there with a man, and the man took his life in another place. I'm still quite curious as to why that room only has one key, when there should have been two. I decided to move back to the apartment that the company had given me in the first place, and I went back to my normal day-to-day life. I can say for sure that I will never step foot in that place again. I wonder if the building is still even around today. That was actually a really creepy story. I remember the night after I first read that, I had to ride the elevator to get downstairs, and I was really creeped out the entire time. I'm still pretty creeped out when I ride the elevator alone. What did you guys think of the story? Let me know in the comments below, and we'll get on to our next story. This story is called The Letters Projected on the TV. There's a famous urban legend that says if you watch TV late at night, when all of the usual broadcasts are over and the color bars appear on the screen, you will begin to see names that appear one after the other. Sometimes this is called tomorrow's victims. About 4 years ago, I was watching a TV show late at night, and I began to hear a little bit of noise. My TV was pretty old, so this noise was an everyday occurrence. I didn't really worry about it, and I continued to watch TV. But then the noise became much worse. I was watching a show about my favorite band at the time, so I was a little bit frustrated. I tried to hit the TV and turn it on and off a few times, but the noise didn't seem to get any better. With not much else I could do, I continued to watch the program. The screen grew very staticky, and I thought that my TV was finally crapping out on me. I held out the remote and I tried to turn off the TV. But something suddenly appeared on the screen. I noticed that I could see some letters and characters in all the chaos. I couldn't really tell what was written through all the visual static, but it became clearer and clearer the more I studied it. After a while, I managed to recognize what it was saying. "We can see you looking at the screen," it said. I became very scared and began to panic and unplugged the TV. I didn't really know what I had just seen. After that, the TV completely broke, and now I have a new TV. But till this day, when I am watching TV, I will always remember the words that appeared that day. I never even knew about that urban legend, and I was always creeped out by the static on the TV. How about you guys? Have you ever had any experiences like that before? Let me know. I'd be interested to hear. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys really enjoyed those stories. I hope they were spooky but not too scary. And as always, if you haven't already, please hit subscribe, hit that thumbs up button, and hit the bell for more notifications. I put out spooky videos every Friday. And I'll see you guys next week for another spooky video.